welcome back to the Doctor Who Marathon. I'm your host McEdam, and today we're going to be talking about the penultimate story of Series 8, In the Forest of the Night. Written by first-time writer Frank Cottrell Boyce, who was a famous writer, and this would be his only Doctor Who work for the series, and is directed by Sherry Folkson, who also is their only directorial story for Doctor Who. Now, this story is based on the poem The Tiger, written by famous English literate William Blake. And so, well, at least that was the idea anyway. The title itself, In the Forest of the Night, comes from the poem. The tiger burning in the night, burning through the light in the forest of the night, or something like that. I'm not that connected to the original poem that it's based off. Neither am I personally a fan of it. It's boring, it's a bit dull, and I don't know, it just doesn't really work for me. And the adaptation per se, really, apart from the title and some little references here and there, William Blake would also illustrate his work, and when he had in his work, some of the imagery is a tiger in a forest. In this story, there's a scene with a tiger, and there's a forest all over the world. But the poem itself is basically about how God could create. How could he create a lion if he also created like innocent creatures like bunny rabbits and stuff? The complex nature of that is what William Blake was interested in, and nothing of that appears in this story. Now, at this point in the series, it became kind of a tradition by the fan base that there's going to be at least one so bad it's good episode. We, going into this series, originally thought it was going to be Flatline with its silly concept and its bizarre ideas in it, like the tiny TARDIS, the paintings that come to life. It seemed perfect for Ryfin material. But that was not it, because Flatline was actually really, really, really good. In the Forest of the Night, however, is... oh god, it's just not that good. There's just very little to work with. I don't know how I'm going to stretch this out for half an hour. I don't even think this video is going to be half an hour, but this story really, it just crumbles on its own feet. The dialogue is honky, the acting, which we'll have to get into in a bit, is wooden and one-dimensional. The plot is, though it does have some interesting ideas and interesting concepts, really stretches it out. It's just, the story just, I don't know how, it's stupid. It's depending on your sense of humour. It could be so bad it's good, or it could be a complete drizzle, a complete mess. One thing that really confuses me with this story right off the bat, its title, In the Forest of the Night. Okay, the forest part makes sense, because basically the idea of the story is that overnight, which yes, I do understand the night bit, but hear me out. Basically, a forest has grown all over the planet of Earth, seemingly overnight, and London is now just covered in jungle, so people in their cars can't get anywhere because there's trees in the way, blah-de-blah-de-blah-de, that kind of idea. But in the night, when you hear the words in the night, you would expect to be at least some scenes set at night. The entire story is set like in the middle of the day when it's bright and sunny. And despite the fact that you're in a forest and the sunlight is struggling to come through, you never get the concept. You never get the feeling of in the night. It's just a really dumb title. It's just to tie into that William Blake poem, The Tiger, and it's just really stupid. In this story, the Doctor is just hanging around in Trafalgar Square when suddenly a little girl, Maisie, comes knocking at the door. She says that she heard a voice. She thought it was her teacher, Miss Oswald, calling to get the doctor, and that's how she found the TARDIS. But she doesn't quite believe it. She claims that like she sometimes hears voices after her sister went missing, and the doctor basically tries to solve like how she's here, where what happens with Danny Pink and Clara, because she claims that Danny Pink was looking after her, but then Clara told her to get the doctor as this forest is overgrown, and the doctor looks outside, and at first he doesn't know where he is, and he gets into the TARDIS's tom-tom system, I suppose, to which the TARDIS is like, we are in England, London, Trafalgar Square, 2014. And the doctor's like, no. In which basically it's like, yes. And they open the door, they look outside, and they see that tiger ornament just outside, just at Trafalgar Square. And basically it clicks then that we are in London. Now, let's talk about like Sherry Folkestone, because this is, like I said, her only story that she's directed. It's really bizarre, because when she's directing outside, when she's directing the forest scenes, there's nothing really much there to analyse, really much there to talk about. She directs it with this competence, but nothing really too striking about it, and it seems kind of like she got kind of tired by the directing of the outside. It's a very bland looking episode for the most part, with the exceptions, oddly enough, with the scene set in the TARDIS. There's a lot of handheld shots in the TARDIS, and there's a lot as well point of view shots. There's a strange bit where the Doctor, he's looking at all these children, and we see his point of view as the camera follows the children. And there's quite a few shots like that inside the TARDIS. I don't know if it's because of timing, scheduling and stuff like that, but the TARDIS here has a much different feel compared to other episodes in Series 8, or maybe even Doctor Who as a whole. And it comes more off like, do you know, like they have those specials where they invite like kids onto the TARDIS set, and then the actor who plays the Doctor at the time walks into the TARDIS and acts like the Doctor. Peter Capaldi's done a few of them. You can find them on the internet. They're really great. And there's always like a handheld shot as if like the crew were there filming it. That's what this feels like. And I do understand the concept for it, because this story features a lot of children. One of the main aspects of this story is children. And it seems like Frank Cotton Boyce was focusing on the kid aspect of the family-friendly show Doctor Who. So that is where this story is mainly targeted for kids. Though, as we'll talk about, has kind of a messed up messaging about it. And so, yeah, really, the TARDIS scene's a really strange shot. I don't know if I like it or not. It does come off a little bit cheap, but it's something unique to Doctor Who. So, apart from the scene set in the TARDIS, everything else kind of looks pretty bland, to be honest with you. But anyway, at this point, Danny, Clara, and these group of kids from the school form like the gifted kids, which I think going by the title means that these kids are challenged. What's the word I'm looking for? I can't really say much. I was in a kind of class like that myself. I suffered from dyslexia and autism as a kid. So I was in these kind of special classes, shall we say. And basically, right off the bat, they were in a museum, sleeping in a museum as a school trip. And when they opened up the doors, and when they came out through the doors, they found London basically covered in the forest. As Clara goes and calls up the Doctor, Danny's more focusing on the kids. You know, he's more concentrated on getting the kids safe. And Clara, she does kind of take a liking to Danny like this, but she's more focused on finding the Doctor, because the Doctor knows about this jungle, and he knows everything. And everyone goes to find the Doctor after the Doctor reveals that Maisie is with the Doctor. Maisie found the Doctor, and the Doctor helped her, saved her, and took her into the TARDIS, as our characters then go and follow everybody to to find the doctor, and there's a lot of scenes of the kids interacting with Danny Pink. There's this one girl that basically she says what she thinks, as it's like, say now Clara's in danger and Danny's basically looking after the kids. She's like, why didn't you go up to save her? You love her, sir. You love her, so go save her. We gotta go and save her. There's this one kid that has a bunch of phobias, though it's not really that prominent in the story. Like you see him at the start of the story, he has a torchlight, and he states like he's got a fear of the dark, so he's allowed to have a torchlight or something like that, which is only really there to probably help an aspect of the story later on. There's also this one kid that's kind of the down-to-earth kid who, when Danny's like, come on kids, come on team, let's go. And it's like, okay, we will follow you, just don't call us a team. And this story, like I said, relies heavily on the kids aspect. And what this story really suffers, I don't want to like bash these kid actors because they're kids, they can't really help it and stuff. And even if they can, it's unfair to put the high standards on them. But these kid actors aren't very good at acting. They are... The fact that the story relies on, especially the girl who plays Maisie, God bless her soul, she is trying. She is trying her heart out to give a decent performance. She's clearly one of the weakest ones there in terms of a performance, but she's basically been chucked into the deep end in terms of this role. She basically plays a challenged kid who, because of the loss of her sister, she starts hearing voices, these strange things. And there's this thing where she constantly does this, and she has like these nervous tics. And the way characters treat her, the way characters react to her, yeah, we're going to have to talk about that, aren't we? Which is one of the things which either find so ridiculously dumb that you can't help but laugh, or you find it incredibly insulting and incredibly, like, it makes you angry. Now, usually I'm on the first team, I'm not somebody who's very sensitive with this kind of stuff. However, because I know this story is targeted for kids, I'm on the second half. I'm a bit angry at this story. Basically, because of the tics, her nervous tics, she gets taken medication for it. And part of the story is that, right, we've got to find her and get her medication before she has like a nervous breakdown, or she starts struggling and, she can't cope with the outside world of sorts. But part of the story, basically, she gets these visions. One of the visions is that she sees this forest and a lightning from the sun coming down. She writes it in this on her book, and we later learn as well that she kind of heard Clara's thoughts coming to talking about, right, we need the doctor for this situation, for this danger, and basically the doctor makes a strong argument that we shouldn't be giving kids medication because that is quote unquote shutting them up. And please tell me I don't have to explain why that's so messed up. Now, I do want to state, I don't think this was intentional. I think that Frank Cottrell Boyce, he had this idea. He had, he wanted to have this kid having these psychic visions, which is a normative for kids-related programs and kid shows. Like Harry Potter, I guess he's the kind of like the special kid, and then it turns out he's a wizard or something. But here, to have it so linked as well with medication, I think that accidentally basically tells children who watch the story, especially children who, suffer from nervous tics or need medication for stuff, basically tells them that this medication is to shut you up. And if you want to be free, if you want to be free-spirited, if you want to be who you are, stop taking your medication. One moment. one of the parts of this story that really annoys me as well, let's just put that to the side for a moment. One of the things that annoys me as well about this story is the relationship between the Doctor, Danny, and Clara. Clara is basically, again, the series is pushing Clara for this kind of having a sort of toxic relationship with the Doctor where she's kind of addicted to his lifestyle. And Danny and the Doctor are kind of seeing this, although the Doctor, again, doesn't like Danny for no reason apart from the fact that he's some sort of soldier, an ex-soldier again, I would like to mind you, I'd like to add. And there's one line, there's one piece of dialogue where I just wanted to punch Clara in the face. Now, Clara is a school teacher, and she is supposed to be the audience surrogate. That's what a companion role is. Basically, Clara is supposed to be the person that we as an audience member can relate to when the Doctor's being unrelatable and being like, scientific mumbo-jumbo. Clara is the one that we're supposed to connect with. Clara is the one that we are supposed to see ourselves in. And there's a line where she's basically, the Doctor is walking around in the forest, and them two in the forest, and it's like, right, we've got to find the kids. It's like, don't be worried. And Clara says something along the lines of, they're not actually special. They're just saying, I'll just say that to make them feel better. Now, I get that teachers actually do kind of think like this, the kids are just annoying and they're frustrating, and I do understand that. But this really just contradicts her as a character, as part of her story with Courtney Woods earlier on in the series is that she's this supportive, caretaker-like character who, because the Doctor didn't say that she was special, Clara's the one that's going to comfort her and get the Doctor to push to say, that she is special, that she is this amazing person. That's part of her story. So to have her basically go, actually, you know what, I don't actually think that, I hate these kids, feels like a completely different character. And also as well, like I said, she's the surrogate character and she is supposed to be the teacher. Imagine you're a kid watching this story. Like I said, this story is mainly targeted to kids. How much you can say, depending on what I'm going with, not really sure. And imagine your kid watching this, somebody who might suffer from like autism, like myself, or your ADHD or Asperger's syndrome, and you see a character that's basically a representation of like your favourite teacher, saying that those kids aren't actually special. Yeah, messed up. Now this kind of goes. This is where the ideas of a darker Doctor, a darker series, and what actually Series 8 turned out to be really contradict themselves. Because Series 8 was teased. Series 8 was advertised as a series more darker, more adult orientated, where we have a Doctor with a questionably moral viewpoint and pushes our characters to the extreme. But Series 8 actually was mainly just another series of Stephen Moffat. And so we have a story here which is trying to be a kid-friendly show, having these lots of kids protagonists and a really silly and upbeat story about a forest that grows everywhere on the planet. Whilst at the same time having these dark aspects like linking the whole kid is psychic plot line with mental illness and medication, and having this teacher saying something a bit more real world, a bit more something which probably teachers, like I said, probably do actually say. But in the context of this story, I felt like it was a really bad decision. There's also some really poorly executed action beats. There's one which I feel like there's some potential there. There's a bit where Maisie's in the forest and there's these wolves in the bushes, and they kind of do a sort of Sam Raimi bit of directing, which is kind of cool, where the camera follows her eyesight as it looks behind her. You see the eyes. Maisie looks the other side and you see eyes popping out. However, the way it's choreographed and the fact that these wolves comes off as really cheesy, really cringy. when in fact it's not like actual aliens. It's bizarrely shot, but it just looks really bizarre. And then she gets chased by these wolves. Doctor and Clara find Maisie. They later then find a tiger, which links again to the William Blake story. And then Maisie goes finding a particular part of the forest where there seems to be these sentient flies of sort, these sentient beings. And people took the myth that Kill the Moon basically revealed that the moon is an egg. Well, in this story, it turns out that forests, not trees per se, but forests, the concept of a forest is a sentient thing that has been looking after Earth for almost 2 billion trillion gazillion years. Like, it's just... And that's one of the big aspects that's really wrong with this story. Because the story is building up this mystery, building up this kind of tension. It's one of the main interests. Like, how did this forest come to Earth? How did this... what is coming? If it's an invasion, they've already won. They're everywhere. It's just a plan of what's next, what's now. What's going to happen when this forest sort of activates, wakes up or something. And it's up to our Doctor character to basically... All our characters follow the Doctor. And we basically learn that the forest has basically come out overnight to protect the Earth from a solar flare, which is about to hit Earth any minute now. And essentially what that means is that anything our character does in terms of plot, anything the Doctor, Clara, Danny does, means absolutely nothing to the plot. Think about it. If the Doctor, Clara and Danny were not there, how would this story be any different? It wouldn't. The solar flare would hit, and the trees would then dissipate, and everyone would be safe and sound. Oh, McEdam, I hear you say. They did plan to try and burn the trees down, burn the forest down, so that they can make roads safer and try and think. And at the end of the story, all our characters ring up everybody to try and stop the destroying of trees. Are you telling me that the entire globe would have executed a mass tree destruction process in less than... Because presumably it happened on the same day, going by the characters' reactions and stuff. It happened within the same day. Do you Yeah, no. No, it wouldn't. They wouldn't have time to prevent the trees before the solar flare erupted. Even if they did have time to destroy some of the trees, they would have destroyed presumably enough to stop the solar flare thing from happening. It's so ridiculously inconvenient for the plot. Convenient? I don't know. And that's really all I can think about. That's only all I can think about In the Forest of the Night. There's also a clip of Missy, where she is viewing the solar flare hitting the Earth. Again, it's really distracting. I don't like these Missy clips. But yeah, apart from that, Danny and Clara have a discussion, and Danny's just like, you know what? I'm okay with you travelling with the Doctor. You just let me know the truth, okay? That does kind of go up against his what he said earlier on in the series, where it's like, I can't, if you lie to me ever again, then we're finished, because I can't, I don't like the idea of you lying to me. Now it's just like, oh yeah, but as long as you tell me later on, as long as you are comfortable with telling me that you are now travelling with the Doctor again. And he does kind of tease, it's like, not now, we'll have a proper talk about it later on. And so that is Forest of the Night. Overall, this is probably one of the worst stories in a while. Since Asylum of the Daleks, at least. Easily one of the worst stories of Series 8. And probably is one of the worst stories in the Capaldi era. It's dull, it's uninteresting, it has nothing going for it. The messaging is either confused or just downright messed up. It doesn't know whether it wants to be a kids show or a more adult oriented show. I say adult, more like, realistic. I don't know. But yeah, that is In the Forest of the Night. Probably it's a pass. There's nothing really you're missing out if you want to watch this story. So that's Into the Forest of the Night. So join me next time when we get to the finale of Series 8. The Doctor and Clara must find hell or the afterlife itself as an invasion of Cybermen. And we get to find out who Missy really is. And the Doctor teams up with some old friends. So join me next time for Dark Water, Death in Heaven, and maybe Fear is a Superpower. So join me next time for that, and I'll see you next time on the Doctor Who Marathon. Ta-da!